Hey there, Empowered Tribe. It's Angela T. Moore. You're getting ready to experience the next episode of Empowered, a health and wellness podcast where I share my personal journey of health and healing, tips for mental and physical health, interviews with health and wellness experts and those bold enough and vulnerable enough to share their own journeys to empower you to succeed in yours. We know that life can be rewarding. It can also be challenging. It has its ups and downs, highs and lows. I learned that with a strong mind and a fit body, you are better able to grow through and grow from whatever life throws your way. My goal is to share journeys of health and wellness, as well as tips and information from extraordinary people all around the world to help you live an empowered life. From Priority Health, my guests are Donnelly and Candice Sloothaak. Donnelly is Vice President of Care Management, Utilization Management, and Operations at Priority Health. In this role, she manages teams that problem-solve solutions to control unnecessary costs and improve the health of Priority Health members through personalized care management as well as utilization management functions. Candice Sloothaak serves as a manager of business system analysis at Priority Health and has been with the organization for the past 4.5 years. In her role, she manages a team of analysts that support crucial health plan medical operations. Candice also serves on the Black Professionals Collective Business Resource Group Board as treasurer and as a member of the Culture and Diversity Council of Priority Health. In this episode, we discuss Breastfeeding Awareness Month, which is an opportunity to advocate and promote breastfeeding for the positive impact it has on both baby and mom. Breast milk is easy to digest, boosts the immune system, and sets babies up for a healthy future. Breastfeeding also has mental health benefits, creating a sense of calm and bonding between mother and baby. However, as we boldly discuss in this episode, there are racial disparities in breastfeeding rates. Access to education, support, and resources is crucial in addressing these disparities. But by promoting breastfeeding, as well as sharing our own personal breastfeeding journeys, we can increase the likelihood that moms and babies have healthier futures. I hope you enjoy the episode. So, Ann, I learned that August is Breastfeeding Awareness Month. Mm-hmm. And for those that are not familiar with National Breastfeeding Month, what is it and why is it so important?
Yeah, thank you. Breastfeeding Awareness Month is our opportunity to really put a spotlight on advocacy and promotion of breastfeeding. There are so many positive impacts of breastfeeding for both baby and mom that we really want to take this month to make sure that we're educating and promoting breastfeeding for everybody. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends that all babies are breastfed from birth to at least 6 months, and at 6 months start introducing foods as appropriate, and then to continue breastfeeding up until 2 years is really what's promoted.
Okay. And I will share with you guys my own personal breastfeeding journey. I breastfed both my boys, and I was very happy with the decision to do that. And I would love the opportunity, Candice, at some point to have you share your actual breastfeeding journey. And Ann, I don't know if you have a breastfeeding journey to share, but specifically, I definitely want us to make sure that I create time and space for us to share our own personal journeys, because I think for a woman listening to the podcast, they may hear some facts, some statistics, they may hear the health benefits, but I think to hear the actual journeys of 3 different women, I think would be really beneficial. So Ann, I have another question for you, because I learned many years ago, and I'm going to be aging myself because my boys are actually 30 and 31, believe it or not. Beautiful, tall boys, 6'6" and 6'3". I would like to think it was my breast milk that helped them grow so tall and healthy. I would like to think that I'm the reason for that. But for an expecting mom or woman who desires to birth a baby, what are the benefits of breastfeeding? I was educated about the benefits when I made the decision, but a lot of women I don't think really know the true benefits of breastfeeding.
Yeah, and Angela, I commend you for making that choice. It's a very personal choice, right? So I do want to be careful that it's not the choice for everybody, But let's, like you said, educate people so they're making the best decision for themselves. So some of the benefits for the baby is that breast milk is something that's naturally made. So it's the easiest for the baby to digest. And so thinking about it from the mom's point of view, generally speaking, there's less spitting up, there's less vomiting. Generally speaking, the baby is less cranky because it's just natural. The other thing that breast milk does is help boost a baby's immune system so they can fight off infections better. We know that you have less ear infections and those kinds of things for babies that are breastfed. And here's another really kind of cool thing about breastfeeding is that you're setting up your baby to be a healthy adult. So you have less childhood obesity, less type 2 diabetes. So Angela, you may not have been the reason why your kids are so tall and beautiful, but you sure did do a great job making sure that you set them up to have a healthy future.
Okay. So I can take some credit.
You take a lot of credit.
I love it. Now, one of the things that I will say as a licensed mental health professional, I don't know if you guys know this, I am a licensed mental health professional. One of the things that I really pride myself on is mental health awareness. And I do understand that there are some mental health benefits to breastfeeding. And can you speak to that? What are some of the mental health benefits of breastfeeding that you maybe have personally learned, but also do you know from maybe a knowledge perspective?
Sure, I can answer from both perspectives if that's okay.
Yeah, that would be great.
So from the clinical lens, when you're breastfeeding, you release a hormone called oxytocin, and it creates a sense of calm and a sense of peace. And so what can be sometimes a stressful time, you're bringing this new little human that you're getting to know into your family, and you've got all these new dynamics, whether that's with a partner, pet, or other children. That sense of calm can really help. It also helps with bonding. You've got that little baby so close. I know they're close when you bottle feed, but it's that skin to skin contact and that eye to eye. So important. And I have 3 children and I breastfed all 3. I was very fortunate and was very successful in that. I remember with my first one, bringing him home and sitting in my grandmother's rocking chair and rocking him and breastfeeding him, and just this wave of love, just like head to toe warmth, and looking at his little face. And it was like I would always do that if I could. That was part of my journey and my choice.
Yeah, I can definitely remember a lot of special moments. Sometimes at 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, I would be so tired, but it was something about latching my baby and holding my baby close to my body that was such a special moment for me. And I can think about all those moments, no matter how fatigued I was, no matter how tired I was, as really special memories. And I will carry those memories with me forever, truly forever.
Amen.
Yeah. And it's interesting because even though as I mentioned, my boys are 6'6" and 6'3", even they're a grown man and they are healthy and they are living life to the fullest. And I'm very pleased with that. I do believe that part of the reason that I do have a wonderful relationship with my children is because of those special moments, that moment of bonding, that moment where I made the decision to create time and space to be with my baby.
Yeah. So well said. So well said.
Now, Candice, I want to give you the opportunity to talk about your own personal decision to breastfeed, because I know that for a lot of women, that decision to breastfeed can be a very challenging one, especially as Ann mentioned, being a first-time mom. And I'm sure, Ann, you can probably speak to this. There's kind of like you can be a little uncomfortable that first time and not, I guess, wondering if you're doing it right, wondering if your baby's getting enough nourishment. I know a lot of women are concerned about that because you can't actually, and this may be a little too graphic for someone that's going to listen to the podcast interview, but like with a bottle, you can see the milk. You can see the bottle getting lower and lower. The only thing I can say, and maybe your breast gets a little more deflated, but pretty much there's no guarantee as to how much milk is actually, going into your baby's body. So Candice, I want to give you the opportunity to kind of contribute to this conversation. So for you, what was it like to make the decision to breastfeed your baby? And then I would love you to talk about the journey of breastfeeding.
Sure. Yeah, I'll definitely start with the decision. Thank you for inviting me to share on that. My mom is a nurse, and so I grew up with somebody who had some knowledge about the importance of breastfeeding, someone who breastfed all four, three of my brothers, sisters. So knowing my mom's perspective helped me to learn that. So I try to share the things that I've learned, but the decision in itself was really just about providing the best possible health outcome for my baby, but also for myself. A lot of times we focus on the benefits for the baby, but also there's benefits for the mom and recovering from birth, which is just a very intense process on a woman's body. Knowing that breastfeeding can help in that recovery and help you to feel better as you transition to being a new mom, that was an important consideration for me. So it felt like the right decision to do it. And it at least was something I'm like, you know what, I'll try and see how breastfeeding goes. So then that's kind of like a lead into what was my actual experience. So I have two children.
Okay.
I have a 7-year-old and I have a 21-month-old. And I had different journeys for both of my kids. I had my daughter when I turned 30, and this was my first child. You're going through the challenge at first of learning, okay, how do I breastfeed properly? So I think a lot of it with my daughter was the technique and just staying, I think just staying hopeful that, okay, this is going to get easier with time. I'm doing it right. When it's your first kid, sometimes you're worrying, am I doing the right things? But just really learning the right technique was the biggest challenge for me with my first. I actually had an oversupply and I was donating milk. So it wasn't even about getting the supply to come in. It was just I had prepared so much on how to give birth that I don't know that I prepared enough on how to properly breastfeed. So I went to see a lactation consultant via my pediatrician after I spoke with the lactation consultant in the hospital, and they really helped me with how do I properly breastfeed in a way that's comfortable for me and for my baby. So first one, great breastfeeding. We breastfed until about 15 months, and she self-weaned, which was nice. So I got to really experience what you talk about, Anne, and what you talked about, Angela, with that bond with them throughout a lot of her first couple of years. And then with my son, I had my son when I was 35. And so then I had the knowledge of the technique, but the challenge was the supply. So I don't know what it was necessarily, but I went back to work and I found that although breastfeeding came naturally, it was a lot easier this time. I just had trouble keeping up. And I think it was maybe about 7 or 8 months in, I was just really struggling with supply. It was a little bit, I think, tough for me mentally knowing that I did it well with my first one for 15 months. So I'm like, oh yeah, I can do this again. And so having that struggle, I actually talked to Anne about this, which is funny. We're both here. I talked with Anne about, just feeling challenged with the decision to move away from breastfeeding and to switch to formula. And she helped educate me that a lot of the health benefits had already been received by my baby from breastfeeding. So it was okay to transition to formula to make that decision. For me, it was about trying to provide the best outcome for my baby, but knowing that I provided a lot of benefit already, and my baby will still have a great outcome even if we transition to formula. I felt like that was extremely encouraging to understand, especially at that point where I was discouraged in my journey. So So we breastfed maybe until about 9 months, and then I fully transitioned to formula around 9 months with my second.
Yeah, you make me think about, I've experienced a similar situation with my second son. And one of the things, and maybe you can speak to this, I do believe with your first child, oftentimes you do create, I think, time and space for learning. I think you're a little more, I think there's a little more time investment where you're really, really dedicated to your baby, and you're able to be because it's your first one. You don't have other little people running around. And so for my second one, what I recognize is with the second one, I was busier because I had two instead of the one. And so like with the first one, I was able to sit down, be relaxed, and let my son nurse as often as frequently as he wanted to. And Candice, I did have an abundance of breast milk. We had tons of it in the freezer and everything. It was like breast milk everywhere. It was really funny because once I got it, we were rolling. But I believe with the second one, I was busier trying to take care of both of them. And so I feel like with the first one, because and I think it's a supply demand, the more that my baby's demanding, the more it's going to supply. And so if you're not having as many opportunities for the baby to demand the breast milk, then the supply is going to be a little less or a lot less depending on how busy you are. And Candice, you mentioned you had gone back to work. For me, it was, I don't think I was working at the time because I actually, and you may be able to speak to this, and if you're not able to, I'll get someone else on the podcast to talk about it. But one of the things that I experienced is while I was breastfeeding my first baby, I got pregnant with my second baby. So what was really interesting about that is that my experience was very different with the second baby because I was tired. I don't feel like I had completely recovered. They're only a year and a half apart, but it just seemed very fast. And there was a lovely experience. They were very close. My oldest son really did assist the second baby with some significant milestones, and so it was a wonderful experience. But I was a lot busier with that second one. And I know, like I said, I don't know that I completely recovered from the first baby when the second one came around. But Anne, are you able to speak to that? As Candice mentioned, we both had similar experiences in that our supply was a little less with the second one.
Yeah, Angela, I think you hit a lot of the nail on the head. You don't have to, but it sure helps when you're able to just relax. And whether you're mentally thinking of your list because you've got another little human running around, or, the little humans just crawling all over you, it just makes it a little bit more challenging. Every pregnancy is unique, though. I've had 3, and I would tell you they were all different. The fatigue has a lot to do with it, too, though. And your ability to get rest, you get woken up all the time, which we all know, us 3 know, right? You don't sleep well when you're pregnant, especially towards the end. But it's not the same as having to get out of bed and, get a baby. So, boy, Angela, yours were so close. I'm not sure probably the first one was quite sleeping through the night either. So you had to have been exhausted. So I think all of those things come together. And those are things you think, we talk a lot. Candice, you kind of touched on this. We talk a lot about the birthing plan. We don't talk a lot about what's the plan after and what kind of support do we need and who's coming in. And, I think we're all kind of flying by the seat of our pants at that point. And it's probably something, this is a great opportunity to make sure that, if you have listeners that are pregnant or thinking about getting pregnant or just had a baby, start thinking about how do I plan for this? And moms are great planners for the most part, right? We have to orchestrate a lot of lives, and this is just the beginning.
Mm-hmm, most definitely. Well, I think about, and I think, Candice, you mentioned that your mom was a nurse and that you also consulted with you reached out to a lactation consultant, which is, I think, a very great resource, a great source of support, because I know it wasn't until I actually reached out to, I want to say it was the Leche League. Does that sound familiar? Yeah. And I had someone actually, one, give me a breast pump, which was very helpful, because I don't know if you experienced this, Candice and Anne, but like I didn't realize that it's important initially to nurse equally on both sides. So sometimes I would be fuller on one side versus the other. And so pumping was kind of nice to kind of balance it out until I, recognized, I'll say this. So I recognized the importance of kind of establishing like a pattern, the way to do it, so that, everything stays equal.
One will become more dominant if you don't.
And so that was very helpful. But I do believe, as you mentioned, Candace, having someone like Anne, or you mentioned your mom, you mentioned the culture consultant, but also talking to someone like Anne and saying, I'm struggling a little bit with the second one, and I feel bad that I'm going to have to probably transition to formula. And you being able to say, from a supportive standpoint, it's okay. Your baby has received much of the nourishment that is beneficial to its life, now and in the future. You did it, Mom. Everything's good. And being able to release that, because we put so much, I would say, stress and pressure on ourselves to be phenomenal mothers, and we have a heart to do it. And then when you start adding in life and work and other responsibilities, sometimes we feel like we fall short. And we're not falling short. We're doing the best that we can each and every day. Truly, truly, truly. Now, I did start the interview talking about Breast Health Awareness Month. Breastfeeding Month. But I also recognize in my research that there is significant emphasis on Black Breastfeeding Week at the end, like the last week in August. So, Anne, why is that so significant?
Yeah. Because there's so many benefits to breastfeeding, and there have been studies, statistically, we know Black families aren't breastfeeding at the same rates as whites, so we're not providing the same or able to provide the same opportunities to our people of color. And we also know that Black families have a higher rate of infant mortality and infant morbidity. And I just find the statistic, it kind of blows my mind, but maybe it's because I'm a nurse by training. Babies who have been breastfed have a 50% less chance of having sudden infant death syndrome. So, I mean, all of that kind of comes together to say, let's focus on breastfeeding, yes, but let's make sure that the people who could really benefit we're making it easier, we're making it better, we're advocating for all, and helping our Black women and families advocate for themselves as well.
It's interesting. In preparation for the interview today, I had done a little research, and according to the CDC, 75.4% of non-Hispanic Black infants are breastfed, compared to 92.7% of Asian infants, 86.2% of non-Hispanic white infants, and 83.4% of Hispanic infants. In 2018, only 19.8% of African American infants were exclusively breastfed for the first 180 days of life, compared to 25.8% of all American infants. So, Anne, why do you believe, or do you know from a knowledge perspective, why are there racial disparities in breastfeeding? What does the research tell us?
Yeah. There's a couple of things. One is we know that Black moms are not given the same education and the same access. There's bias and racism, and we've got to stomp that out. We have to. I think the other piece is that there are less lactation specialists who are people of color. And so I certainly am not. So I always get a little uncomfortable wandering into space I don't own. But Candice is a great person who helps me be a better person. And we know that we've got to stomp that out, and that people seeing themselves in roles helps other people say, I can do that too. And so I'm hoping through this podcast, we can promote lactation specialists for all people of color, of every race, of everything, every minority, so that we can get to better.
Yeah, I strongly agree. I do know, I have interviewed a number of individuals about breastfeeding, the benefits of breastfeeding, and the disparities that have been recognized for many years as it relates to breastfeeding. You mentioned infant mortality as well as the high incident of maternal death within that year, or in the African American community and also in minority communities. I definitely do agree that I think it is an education issue. I think it definitely is an issue where women are discriminated against and assume that they don't have the ability to understand information. So oftentimes that information is not shared, or maybe it's shared in a way that it's not well received or understood. And I think that more and more conversations like this will not only increase awareness, but also, I think, kind of reduce the stigma of such conversations. People understanding it's okay to talk about those things, because anytime you're seeing an incident of something affecting a population more than it affects other populations, and significantly more so, it's definitely, you do need to say, well, why? You know, why is that? And are there some proactive things that we can do individually, as individuals, as well as from a family perspective? Are there things that we can do within our homes, and also things that we can do within our communities to try to decrease those disparities? I know, as I mentioned before the interview, that I'm a mental health professional. I've had many individuals reach out to me specifically because I am a Black woman, and they said, I just wanted to be able to talk to someone that looked like me. And I think that, unfortunately, when it comes to lactation consultants and different people, I don't know how many of them look like the people that are seeking their support. And are you a Black woman? Are you a Hispanic woman? Are you seeking support from someone who may not understand your actual experience? And what are the challenges and obstacles that you face each and every day, not only as a mother, but as a human being trying to live in a world that often discriminates against you? Yeah. So, Candice, I want to ask you a very important question, because I know that the breastfeeding journey is something that often, I think, rarely is without struggles. You did kind of allude to some of the struggles that you had, concerns about latching properly and different things like that. Were there any other challenges during your journey that you can speak of that may be beneficial for a woman who's saying, like, well, you know, I'm kind of struggling here? Anything that you have to share that may be beneficial to someone like that?
Yeah, so I spoke a little bit about the technique and how I didn't really, like I said, I was so focused on the birth that I didn't think about how do I also properly breastfeed and prepare my body for that. And so knowing that breastfeeding is, I mean, this is a whole person's job as a lactation consultant. It's not a simple thing for one size fits all for everybody and how it's going to go for you. So I would say the best thing that I learned is there's options. So one example might be, I really struggled initially with, you know, how it felt because I wasn't latching properly. And then that subsequently caused kind of some things I needed to heal from. And so a tool like a nipple shield was introduced to me, something that can provide a little bit more comfort in the early stage, you know, or if you're, you know, if it finds a little bit painful. That was something that was introduced to me. It wasn't on my registry. I had no idea about that. Another thing was, you know, breastfeeding is really important, and the breast milk is really great for the baby, but breastfeeding itself isn't the only way for the baby to get the breast milk. I also knew moms who exclusively pumped because, you know, they maybe didn't get to the better place that I did with actual breastfeeding. So they really just utilized their pump, and they were still able to give their baby some of the benefits of breast milk, but just with pumping in a way they could still do that. So I would say some of the challenges are things a lot of times with knowledge you can either overcome or there's a tool, but just having access, like you said, Angela, when you talked about the disparities and having access to the information, to the tools, really makes a difference in how that experience goes for you and for your baby. Mm-hmm.
You make me think of a few challenges that I had when I was breastfeeding. I was very tender and sore because I wasn't latching properly. I did have, bleeding and soreness. And what was interesting is someone said, put tea bags on your nipples. And it was amazing how that actually helped. I don't know if you knew that, but it was actually something that was actually a wonderful way to kind of soothe the area and to start the healing process, because I wanted so badly to breastfeed my son, and I was not going to stop. I was committed to doing it, and I knew that it was a technique issue, and I knew once I figured out the proper way of latching, because I did have that experience of a proper latch on, and so I did know, oh, that's what it's supposed to feel like versus ouch. And so once we got it, I found that it made the experience much more enjoyable for myself and for my son. And I will say this, it makes me think of something I said to someone else. They were talking about something totally relevant to breastfeeding, but they were saying they wanted to do something. I said, but once you make a decision, everything will fall in place that will support that decision. And so I think that that's what we as moms need to make the decision. One, if we want to breastfeed, and understand, as you mentioned, Candice, it may not mean that your baby is able to latch on. Maybe you're not able to do that for whatever reason. Maybe you are still giving your baby breast milk from pumping, and you're giving the baby the breast milk in a bottle. I know one of the benefits of me being able to pump was I was able to hand my son over to my husband. And so there were some times where I was just like, I hadn't slept at all. And I was like, I'm falling asleep. And, I'm like, stay awake, stay awake. And my husband stepped in and he would, feed the baby. So understanding that breastfeeding may not be specifically on your breast, but what we're talking about, and you can speak more to this, are the benefits of the breast milk, all the nutrients that you get from mom, the bonding, all the different things that we talked about.
Yeah, breast milk is kind of a fascinating subject because it changes based on what the baby needs. Isn't that crazy? So, there's just another benefit. And Angela, I love how you said, like, everything falls into place. And so I guess if I could say anything, I would encourage people to try, because even a little bit is better than nothing, right? So just try it, and things oftentimes fall into place. And we've just spent a few minutes talking about the importance of a breast pump and how we've used it to balance each other out, or we've pumped so we could get a nap or sleep through the night, gives dad or a significant other an opportunity. Maybe, and Candice, you gave the example of she never really breastfed, but the baby got what they needed, right? Lots of health insurance companies, including Priority Health, a breast pump is a covered benefit. You can get it. So, it's not, go out to your payer, look it up, call your member service or customer service rep, and see how you can get one, because it's another barrier that you can reduce. Here's a free breast pump. And another resource might even be doulas. There are covered doulas are somebody that they're not a nurse, they're not a doctor, but they're trained to help and walk beside women before, during, and after delivery. So they'll come to your home, they'll help you. They can help with lactation as well, or if it's beyond what they can help with, they have all the resources to get you looked up. And for our Medicaid population, again, that's a covered benefit. So there's lots of resources out there.
Okay. Now you mentioned various resources. Are there any programs that support mothers? And I'm sorry, Candice, I may have cut you off. Were you going to say something?
You're okay. Oh, I was just going to tack on about the breast pumps, because I actually did from Priority Health. That's how I got my breast pump. And I wanted to add that breast pumps have continued to evolve with technology. And so from my first child, where I just had to use kind of a bulkier pump, by the time I had my second child, I was able to get a wearable that was, predominantly covered by insurance. And then I could discreetly pump under my clothes. So I would be on a meeting and I'm pumping. So it was very convenient. So I just wanted to share that pumping has come even further. And as I strongly encourage investigating the benefits that your insurer offers, because Priority Health did cover a huge majority of my wearable.
Oh, wow. Candice, I didn't have that experience. Like I said, I'm aging myself, but I did not have that experience. I literally, when I first started, because I didn't have the knowledge, I hadn't reached out to the Leachy League first. I actually had the manual pump, and then I did get this really like beautiful, and I thought I was really doing something special, Candice. I'm like, wow, I didn't know that you could like get a wearable, but I did have the one where you could sit there, and you could watch TV and be pumping at the same time. But I didn't have that one, so that sounds really amazing. But again, I think this conversation will help a woman who's maybe thought about the birthing process, who hasn't thought about the process after you have the baby. Maybe now she'll go, well, I want a wearable breast pump. so I can have meetings and be pumping at the same time.
You can be making dinner, you can be, reading a book, you can get a lot of stuff done.
I love that. So, Ann, I was going to ask you, so you are the Vice President of Care Management, Utilization Operations at Priority Health. So what, you did mention that women can get a pump. What other programs does Priority Health offer?
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Well, we have several, actually. I'm really proud of all of them. One is our Centering for Pregnancy program. So we work with our providers in the community, and the providers will put cohorts of women who are pregnant together. It's almost like a group visit. So you have that kind of shared learning and that shared experience. Yeah, if you don't have somebody at your table to say, are you going through this, or how is this for you? It creates that. And there's a lot of studies out there that show that networking really helps for successful deliveries and healthier babies. So really proud of that. We have a maternal infant health program, which is a free program specific for our Medicaid population, which provides regular in-home visits by a nurse, a nutritionist, and a community health worker. So again, walks with you and shortly after your delivery. And it helps they help to address both your physical and mental health, which, you've really keyed into well, how important that is. And one of my babies, because I kind of worked with the team to put this together, we have a program called Priority Mom. And it's really a program, again, walking alongside mom, but providing prompts via emails to remind moms to get the needed services at the right time as they go through their pregnancy. It's important to get your glucose checked, all those tests, so that if something needs to be done, it can be done early and everybody can be making good decisions and you have the best outcome possible. We've had that program for 2 years, and all the good things we want to happen, we're showing improvement on, and all the things we want to reduce are going down. And it addresses mental health as well. So we're really proud of that. And we've expanded Priority Mom into Priority Baby. So if you're a Priority Health member and you've had a baby, and you don't have to have gone through the Priority Mom program, but the Priority Baby program does the same thing for moms. So we might remind you for your immunizations and your well baby checks, because all of that is important too. So thank you for that opportunity.
No, you're very welcome. Well, when I did the radio show for 5 years, I created time and space on every show to highlight the wonderful work, the organizations like Priority Health and many of the charities and nonprofits that were within the community, the great work and all that they do day after day, and all the amazing programs that I felt like were in existence that many people did not take advantage of because they were unaware of them. And so my podcast is not going to be any different in that I will always create time and space for those very important conversations, because one of the things that I've recognized is that in order to make the right decisions, you need information. You need information to make those decisions. Yes. And then once you make the decision, you want to be able to have the resource and support to make that decision successful. Whatever it is that you decided to do, you want to be successful within that. So I want to thank both of you guys for taking time out of your very busy day to spend it with me, but also to, share words of wisdom, also to share your personal journey with me. Both of you guys actually shared your journey. Thank you, Ann, for sharing your journey. And thank you, Candice, also for sharing your journey in such a way that I think you'll be able to connect to women, one, that are older, when they have their children, because you mentioned you were 30 and 35. And even within that, there are a lot of challenges often that older women face than younger, and there's younger women. And I will say, I think the 30 and 35-year-old of today is a much younger version of because I think we have definitely learned and appreciate the importance of taking better care of ourselves, and there's many more ways to do that. And so, whereas you may have had a lot more complications many years ago within pregnancy, a lot of those complications, if you do receive regular medical care during your pregnancy, a lot of those complications are not an issue for older women as they used to be. And so I think more and more women that, for whatever reason, decide to wait till they have their child at 30, 35, or even 40, will feel better equipped to be able to make the decision after the birthing process, to be able to make the decision to breastfeed and nurture their baby in that way, and that they bond with their baby in that very significant way because of conversations like this. So thank you so much, both of you, for taking time out of your day to spend it with me.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I think you're doing a real service for the community, and so I can't thank you enough.
What'd you say, Candice?
Thank you for inviting us to share our stories and an opportunity to connect with the community, and hope that helps them as they decide their journey.
Yeah. Well, I know any woman that after this conversation will probably never look at her boobs the same way. I know, right? They'll probably have a woman who's not even a mom that's going to be sitting in a meeting going, I remember Candice talking about she was sitting in her meeting and she was pumping at the same time.
Yeah.
That's multitasking.
Yes, that's multitasking. Truly, they say it's not healthy to do, but in that situation, you can, right?
Mom's got to do what mom's got to do, you know.
But thanks again, you guys, for like I said, for hanging out with me and sharing your just wonderful knowledge, wisdom, experiences, and journeys. I really, really appreciate it. Thanks for listening to Empower It with Angela T. Moore. Feel free to share this episode with someone you think would enjoy it. New episodes come out weekly. Follow our show on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you're listening right now.